Interesting.
Okay, as many of you know, April 19th, I was arrested for possession of child pornography. You aren't aware of all the facts, and I'm not going to produce all the evidence. I'm not going to produce any of the evidence in this video. This is more or less a primer to let you know what's coming. And it's going to get interesting.
Hello guys and girls, how's it going? You alright? This is Ron Collins.
Ninjutsu makes use of even the sparsest foliage and debris as a form of concealment for one's appearance.
Apart from the ability to go invisible at will, Ron's story is actually pretty insane, and the deeper we go, the more and more wild it will get. Today we will be looking at the heinous crimes that he has committed, clear mental disorders, black dragon ninjas who inspired a Hollywood blockbuster movie, a possible conspiracy by the state to persecute an innocent man, street beefs with a well-known YouTuber, stolen valor, and a Wolfman martial arts master, plus much more. So let's start at the beginning. Ronald Collins Jr. was born on the 11th of June 1980 and has spent most of his life in West Virginia. Not after the best start in life, Ron's dad smoked a joint laced with PCP and tried to unalive his mother when he was younger, so his mother and father broke up, with Ron only seeing his father once every 2 years or so. Now, the following things are what Ron claims his martial arts training has been over his life. As we will see later on, Ron may not be the most reliable source of information, but these are the things that he has claimed over the years. So at the age of 2, his mother began to train him in martial arts, and by the age of 4, he started to train in karate. At the age of 6, he was studying judo and jiu-jitsu, plus Cherokee and Roma gypsy martial arts. At the age of 8, he had a black belt in karate, judo and jiu-jitsu, plus he started to study another form of karate and kickboxing. He then took up Muay Thai, but gave this up at age 10 to study Taekwondo. Also at the age of 10, he got his second degree black belt in karate. Pretty impressive stuff, but this young prodigy was only getting started. He then took up Aikido and Ninjutsu, claiming to have got a black belt in Ninjutsu in less than a year. He then went to live in North Carolina for a short time, where he hung around with a street gang called the Golden Dragons, who he describes as primarily Oriental. At the age of 11, Ron would stop taking part in karate tournaments, as they are just an ego trip, and Ron was more interested in the real deal. Back in West Virginia, he would fight a boy at school, with Ron seriously injuring this young lad, so the boy's sister would challenge Ron to avenge her brother's honour. Then somehow this made the young boy's father teach Ron his family's secret ninja style. West Virginia being a well-known hotbed for secret ninja families, I guess. Ron then finished high school and joined the Marines. We will look at this later, but for now let's just stick with the martial arts. At the age of 20, Ron was given a 5th degree black belt in the secret ninja style that he had begun to learn by battering the teacher's son. Now, you may be thinking all of this sounds pretty impressive, but no big deal. Well, Ron also claims to have been a very sickly child who spent most of his summers in hospital and literally died of crib death twice. So in your face, losers. When was the last time you got a black belt in a secret ninja style while in hospital? That's what I thought. Lazy. Confusingly, Rod has also claimed that he does not hold a rank in most of the systems that he knows, as he's more of a street fighter. I guess the lesson here is to take the claims that Ron makes with a healthy pinch of salt. Anyway, Sensei Collins has carried out secret ninja operations in his youth, been involved in battles with countless martial arts masters and teachers from all over the globe, claimed to have fought for money in organised fight clubs, and Ron also has an honorary rank certificate from the infamous Ashida Kim. We will look at Ashida Kim and the Black Dragon Fighting Society later on, but for now let's look at some of the works that Ron has published via Ashida Kim's company Dojo Press. Drunken Wolverine Ninja Kung Fu was published in 2006 as a DVD and book created by Ron Collins. It's a pretty low budget release, with the DVD being handwritten in marker pen and the book being paper folded over and stapled. Sadly, I've been unable to watch or read this, so I'm working from what others have written online, but apparently the short martial arts book is littered with hatred for the police and racial slurs, with a side of martial arts wisdom, like how people can be divided into animals like cats, dogs, bears, wolves and wolverines. Ron is a wolverine as he's never been beaten in a fight. Ron is quoted in this book as saying, "I can tell you how to take apart the human body with a penknife, build improvised explosive devices and poison a small town. I fight the way I do because I'm that vicious. I remember being taught Roma traditions. The first things we learned were folk tales, often about the battles between heaven and hell." He then claims to be part Roma gypsy, which is something of a recurring theme for Ron. He talks about them like they are some kind of mystical, magical wizards from a far-off fairy tale. So I'm guessing there are not many gypsies stealing copper pipes in West Virginia. The DVD that goes along with this book has been widely mocked online, with people claiming that the audio is barely listenable and most of it is filmed in a dark hallway. One online source is quoted to say, "Drunken Wolverine Ninja Kung Fu is a badly rendered, amateurishly written, impossibly childishly executed street fighting fantasy produced by a man who has admitted to assaulting law officers and who believes the best defense is an all-out savage intent to unalive your opponent regardless of circumstance. I cannot think of a worse set of material to inflict on a novice martial artist. Even beginners, however, are likely to see the flaws in this steaming pile of contrived, self-indulgent delusion." Sensei Collins also has an online course called Street Focused Jiu-Jitsu.
It's cold and wet, so it really sucks.
Bless him, he's not the most charismatic of people. Ron also has a few other books out based on ninja stuff, and even released a fantasy book named The Brass Keep. Here is the synopsis for this book. The Brass Keep is a tale between heaven and hell, of the power of light and darkness, chronicling the growth of a lonely boy into manhood and his place as the dark hero of gypsy legend. Draven Astroff was risen alone on the frontiers until one day he learned of his true nature as a Dhampir, the begotten offspring of a vampire and a human. Now Draven must decide the truth of his life. Is he a monster or a man, forced to tread through life with one foot in the grave in the fight against the legions of hell itself? So the protagonist for this book is named Draven Astroff. This name will pop up again as it's his username in some of the forums that he posts in. That's enough of martial arts for now. Let's move on to something else. So instead of doing this in chronological order, I thought it would be better to deal with each aspect of the story in its own segment, as some of these stretch over decades. We have looked at his martial arts, now let's look at his stolen valor story arc. Ron has a long history of posting on martial arts forums, with many of these posts claiming that he served in the military, joining the Marines aged 17, serving for 2 years with force recon, then being discharged due to medical reasons. He then claims to have joined the army in 2001 for 3 years, serving in Korea and Iraq. Ron has made many claims about his time in the military, such as him teaching his own brand of martial arts to his brigade as the unofficial hand-to-hand combat guy, and that he also served in the military police. This went on for over 10 years, with people challenging Sergeant Major Collins, but him sticking to his story. One day on a forum called Martial Arts Planet, Ron was talking about what a trained deadly fighting machine he was, when someone on the forum said that they were going to do a Freedom of Information request for his military record. By this point, his full name and date of birth were known to the internet. Ron then went strangely quiet on the forum. Then, after a couple of days, he released a video proclaiming that he had lied about being in Force Recon, and said that he claimed to be a Johnny Rambo Uber Supermarine Force Recon guy. his words, in order to bait people into thinking about why they care more about martial arts than the military. It's honestly a little hard to work out what point he's trying to make here, but this is something that's pretty common in the Ron Collins story. He will get caught lying, then make up a convoluted explanation with it somehow being part of his ninja master plan to play mind games with his opponents. Ron says that he lied for over 10 years about being in force recon with no one questioning this, but people always question his martial arts credentials. And that's the reason he lied for over 10 years, to make some kind of point that people should care more about the military than martial arts, I guess. It's an odd claim, as many people have questioned his military record over the years, and it wasn't until someone threatened to do a Freedom of Information request that Ron decided to unveil his master plan. On a side note, the person on the martial arts forum never did do a Freedom of Information request, but someone else did. A website named The Martialist filed for this information and got a copy of his record. This showed that Ron was in fact in the army, but never the Marines. He was never deployed to Iraq, never was in the military police, but instead served in Korea as a radio telephone operator and never saw combat. He did, however, work in some kind of support role for people that did go to Iraq. The Army also gave his decorations and awards, which are Army Achievement Medal, Army Good Conduct Medal, National Defence Service Medal, Global War on Terrorism Service Medal, Korean Defence Service Medal, and Army Service Ribbon. All of these things seem good to me, at least, so I'm unsure why he lied and overinflated his record. I don't really know anything about the army, so maybe they give out medals like taking part trophies in a special needs school, but to a layman like me it sounds like the army thought he was okay. They also confirmed that he was a team leader of 4 men and did do some combat training with the men, but it's highly unlikely that they allowed him to teach his own brand of ninjutsu. If there are any army people watching, let me know in the comments if this is a good record or not, as I have no clue. Maybe if the guys at Fort Knox still watch my videos, you can let me know. Ron was discharged from the army, with the circumstances around this being a little unclear. Ron claims that this was for medical reasons, but there are suggestions of something a little more nefarious that will pop up later. His record did show that Ron served in the army for more than 3 years, and Ron claims that the military lost some of his records, which is why it doesn't show his full service record, proving everything that he claims. So, Ron was a member of the Black Dragon Fighting Society, who are a bit of a rabbit hole in their own right, so let's take a look at them. The following information is taken from their website, so caution may be needed with some of the claims that are made. The Black Dragon Fighting Society was founded in Japan in 1901 by this man whose name I can't pronounce. He was a student of the founder of judo and a member of a well-known and powerful criminal organization. This man wanted to create an anti-Western alliance made up of Japan, Russia and China. So he got his Black Dragons to assassinate moderate politicians in order to bring about his aims of military expansion abroad. Over time, the Black Dragons would become secret agents and opened an espionage training school, the students of which played a big part in the Japanese victory in the Russo-Japanese War, using psychological tactics against the Russians. In their words, the Black Dragons then murdered its way across the globe and established a presence in Chicago and LA in the 1930s, where they started to work with the mafia and fund civil rights campaigns to destabilize the USA. They kind of just skipped the Second World War on their website, as I guess Japan lost and this made the Black Dragons look bad. Jump to the 1960s and they were set up again in the USA by the most deadly man alive, Count Dante. I've already made a video about one of the members of the Black Dragons named Ishida Kim, in which I do a breakdown of Count Dante, so I won't spend too much time on him here, but he developed his own fighting style called the Dance of Death. He was involved in the Dojo Wars, which cost one man his life. He is suspected of being the mastermind of a robbery in which $4.3 million was stolen. He was a master hairdresser and the director of a wig and hairpiece company. This is a photo of the Black Dragons. Down the bottom we can see our little buddy Ron engaged in a mating ritual, presenting himself to an eager hairless suitor. Then above the lovebirds we have the one and only Ishida Kim. As I said, I've already done a full video on him, so I won't go into his story here. I will say that I gave Ishida a bit of a hard time in that video, but he is by far a better ninja than Ron is. Next to Ishida we have Lawrence Day, and this super cool dude with the sunglasses is Frank Dukes. Frank Dukes was born on the 6th of April 1956 in Toronto, Canada. Frank claims that he was taught ninjutsu by an expert named Senzo Tanaka, who is the descendant of 40 generations of warriors, and he trained Frank to be a ninja when he was a teenager. Frank also served in the US Marines, where he was sent on covert missions in Southeast Asia and was awarded the Medal of Honor. Frank was also in the CIA, where he worked as a spy and destroyed fuel depots in Central America and chemical weapons plants in Iraq. The Black Dragons claim that they sponsor an event known as the Kumite. They claim that this can be traced back to ancient Greece, with Alexander the Great spreading it to Asia, where it was picked up by Genghis Khan and has continued over the ages. The Kumite is a full-contact secret martial arts tournament that is held every 5 years. And guess who was the first Westerner to ever win the event? Frank Dukes. Frank didn't just win this tournament. When he travelled out to the Bahamas to compete in this 60-round single elimination event, he also set the all-time record for the most consecutive knockouts, which was 56, and the fastest knockout, which was 0.12 seconds. Frank was also the first person in history to be given permission to talk about the tournament, which was lucky for him, I guess. It also turns out that Frank's old teacher, Senzo Tanaka, was also a past winner of this event. With Frank winning the Kumite, the Black Dragon Fighting Society became an exclusive fraternal order of the best in martial arts. These are their words. When Frank told the world about this spectacular story, people were rightfully interested in what happened, so many interviews later a blockbuster movie was made about the adventures at the Kumite. The movie was called Bloodsport and starred Jean-Claude Van Damme, with Frank working as one of the fight coordinators for the movie. Bloodsport was a big hit and was one of the inspirations for the video game Mortal Kombat, with the character Johnny Cage being based off of Jean-Claude Van Damme, who was based off of Frank Dukes. Some even say that this movie gave birth to the modern-day UFC. And on that note, Frank Dukes had a fight with kickboxer Zane Fraser over a debt that Dukes owed him. Zane won the fight, with many witnesses seeing what happened. One of these people was a Gracie and gave Zane a place in the UFC based off of this fight. Dukes claims that Zane sucker punched him while wearing brass knuckles, but well-known MMA referee John McCarthy also saw the fight and does not confirm this for Dukes. In much the same vein as Ron Collins, a Freedom of Information request was put in for Frank's military record, which confirmed that he never served overseas. He was never given the Medal of Honor and was in fact given a psychiatric evaluation after he expressed flighty, disconnected ideas. Frank claims that the military are trying to discredit him by messing around with his service record. The Ministry of Sports in Barbados has come out and said that it would be impossible for a tournament of this scale to be kept secret on their little island, and the base for the trophy he won at the Kumite was shown to have been brought by him at a local trophy store. No one has ever been able to find any reference for Frank's famous teacher Senzo Tanaka, but in a weird twist of fate, he does have exactly the same name as a ninja commander from James Bond's novel You Only Live Twice. It's a pretty big coincidence. The director of Central Intelligence, Robert Gates, said that he has never heard of Dukes and nobody that he knows in the CIA has ever heard of him either. And a CIA spokesman said that they don't normally comment on such things, but Dukes' claims were so preposterous that they thought it necessary. Some other little tidbits about Frank is that he claims to have had a fight record of 322 wins with 0 losses, but no one can find any evidence for this. He claims to have stopped a plot to assassinate Steven Seagal. I'm not making any of this up, this is just what I found. And the reason he doesn't have the ceremonial sword that he got for winning the Kumite is because he sold it to buy the freedom of a boatload of orphans. Sadly, this didn't work, so he just went ahead and rescued them from pirates. Say what you want about Ron's claims, I've never heard him say that he's rescued a boatload of orphans from pirates. But he is a bit of a pedo, so you win some, you lose some, I guess. Ron claims to have been promoted to a 6th Dan black belt by Grand Master Lawrence Day. So who is Lawrence Day? He is a master of what is known as Silent Dragon Kung Fu. So what is Silent Dragon Kung Fu? Well, I feel a little bit ridiculous even saying these things out loud, but this is just what I found. Okay, so in 1849 a child was born in China, but his parents didn't want him, so they left him in the forest. A Shaolin monk travelling through the forest saw the poor little child abandoned and alone, so took him in and raised him as a monk. He was trained in the ways of the Shaolin, and it soon became apparent that this young child was a natural in the martial arts. This young prodigy would absorb everything that was shown to him and was exceptional, mastering over 200 empty hand systems and over 140 weapon systems. He would go on to become the first monk ever to master all the skills of the 7 Shaolin temples. This man would become known as Su Kong Tai Jin, Su Kong apparently meaning Grand Master. He was a great and masterful man, a man of honour and determination. We have a photo of Su Kong Tai Jin. I want you to picture in your mind what such a man might look like. This is him. Now, I really wasn't expecting to fall down this rabbit hole. I was just looking to see who Lawrence Day was, and he had posted the lineage of the Grand Masters of the Silent Dragons with this photo, which, as you can imagine, was a funny and surprising thing to stumble across. Well, it turns out that this man actually existed, and he was actually a real Shaolin master from what I can tell. So the next part is what Lawrence Day claims. Shao Kong Tai Jin fled to the forest with his followers and set up a school named Silent Dragon. While at this school, he taught many monks, one of which was named Chan Ming, who would become the second master of Silent Dragon. Chan Ming had some problems with a local army, single-handedly ending 11 of them, and had to flee to Indonesia, where he set up another school, teaching someone named Sin Quan, who became the third master. Sin Quan then taught Lawrence Day, who became the 4th master of Silent Dragon. So that's the story of Ron's 6th degree black belt. I think we've spent enough time on the Black Dragons. Let's get back on with Ron's story. As mentioned before, Ron has spent a lot of time on martial arts forums, and one of these times would lead to the only real evidence that we have of Ron's martial arts skills. A well-known YouTuber called Icy Mike, who runs a channel called Hard to Hurt, got drunk one night and went on the forums when Ron was having a disagreement with some of the members, and the pair agreed a fight. This would take place on another well-known YouTube channel called Street Beefs. This is a channel where people fight in the owner's backyard to sort out disagreements, and was very popular at one point but seems to have dropped off in recent years. I know from my own channel that of late YouTube really doesn't like anything that is even remotely considered violent. So I would guess that they've been hit hard by this clampdown. Anyway, Ron would gain some attention from this match, and is probably what he's best known for. He did an interview of someone named Bob Carson, in which the interview cuts out shortly after they start talking, and you're just left with Ron breathing for about 5 minutes, which was a delight for my ears. Ron refers to this match in his videos as Ninja Mission Operation Defrost Icy Mike, and he would log his journey to the fight. On a side note, Ron had the traditional ninja meal of a McDonald's extra value breakfast before the fight. With such pre-fight preparations, it's no big surprise that Ron lost the fight. Honestly, it was a very bad showing from Ron. Mike would pick him apart with leg kicks, then knock him to the floor with a left hook, then finish him with a left to the ribs, which knocked out the wind from Ron, and Ron gave up. The whole fight lasted about 40 seconds, with Ron not throwing one punch, making it beyond any doubt that Ron was not a very good fighter. After Ron gave up, he tried to shake the hand of Icy Mike, who ignores this and walks back to his corner.
He's done. He's done.
Mike did later say that this was not how it seemed in the video, and he was just unsure if the fight had finished, so went back to his corner. Then once the video ended and he knew that the match was over, he did shake Ron's hand. Mike also claims that he had broken his foot during sparring 9 days before the fight. In fairness to Ron, he was pretty open about the fact that he lost the fight afterwards, and he showed up, which is to be commended.
Alright, so Operation Defrost Icy Mike ended in failure. Nah. Okay. There's not much really to say to it. He got in a couple of good hits. I pretty much, yeah. None of them really affected me until he got me with that one shot right to the fucking ribs. He caught me right in my floating ribs, and I felt that shit in my diaphragm. It literally like stunned my diaphragm. I could not breathe. And I mean, there's no excuse for it. I left myself open. He fucking took it and he hit me, and that's what happened. And okay. We're done. I'm cool.
This humbleness didn't last long though, and on his blog he would post that he achieved the following goals by having the match with Mike. 1. Bringing attention to the corruption and false charges brought against me by the state of West Virginia. Achieved. 2. Showing that all the BS claims by my detractors such as Don Rowley and Phil Elmore, Baron Shepherd, who claim I won't show up and fight me, who have tried to set me up, duck me and dodge any legitimate fight on neutral ground. Wrong. Achieved. 3. Allowing an independent third party to see and judge their behaviour as mentally deficient and stalkerish and harassment. Done. 4. Giving myself motivation to get back into training and working to learn and improve myself beyond the limitations of my art. Yes. 5. Making Don Rowley, Baron Shepherd and Phil Elmore irrelevant. Cyberstalkers who must either put up or shut up. Yeah, that too. Now a lot of that won't mean much to you right now, but keep it in mind as we go on, as it shows a lot about the motivations for Ron. And a lot of those names are going to pop back up in the future. 4 years after the fight, people on the internet started to say that Ron fought 3 other people before the match with Mike. At this point, Ron was in prison, so I'm unsure who said this or why, but Ron does seem to have quite a few defenders out there. The defeat against Icy Mike seems to have changed something within Ron, and it was around this time that Ron would go out and buy a gun. So in this section we will take a closer look at all of the crimes that Ron has committed. Some of these will be just things that he said in forums, and others will be things with proof that he has gone to prison for. I'll try to make it clear which is which as we go on. In one forum post, Ron claimed to have hit his childhood friend with a hammer. He describes this person as like a little brother to him. He had known him since he was 8 and he struck him because his friend was threatening him with a knife. Ron claims that he was charged with malicious wounding, but this was dismissed due to lack of evidence and West Virginia's castle doctrine laws, as this happened at his home. In this post, he would talk about how his military training had helped him to act instinctively and decisively when danger comes his way. The next one is a little confusing, as I'm unsure if these are a bunch of separate crimes or the same thing. But in 2006, Ron posted that he was working in a mall when a 13-year-old girl made a pass at him, to which Ron said, "No way." Ninja Ron then claims that because he was getting a $15,000 sign-on bonus for one of his books, and the fact that Ron already had a few books out, this girl's father thought that this man working at the mall had lots of money, so sued him. At his pre-trial, his defense attorney told him to take the plea bargain, which Ron was not happy about. And to make matters worse, the arresting officer illegally entered the conference room to bring more charges. Ron then makes the statement to the forum, "For all us law enforcement guys, we know that if there are any additional charges, they can be brought up to 1 year, but cannot be brought up during the case." Ron then claims that the policeman attacked him but was not very good at fighting, as police martial arts suck. Apparently the police then called and threatened his family, with Ron saying that if anything happened to his mum or girlfriend, he would go Rambo on Berkeley, which is the city in which he lives. Ron posted this in April 2006, then in November 2006 he was indicted for assaulting a police officer of the Department of Veterans Affairs Police Service. Now this is where I start to get a little confused. In February 2008 he was found guilty of 2 counts of contributing to the delinquency of a minor and 1 count of battery on a police officer, with Ron getting 1 year in jail for this. But then Ron was put under house arrest until July 2009, so maybe he won some kind of appeal here? It then gets more confusing as Ron says that he got probation for assaulting the officer of Department of Veterans Affairs Police Service and a year's house arrest for assaulting a state trooper. So it seems like there are two different counts of assaulting the police. After his house arrest ended, Ron was arrested again and taken to trial for stalking and assaulting the same 13-year-old girl, but was found not guilty on these counts. He was, however, found guilty of being in contempt of court for his actions during the trial and was sentenced to 10 days in jail plus a $50 fine. A few years after this, the police raided Ron's home and seized his electronical devices. I don't think electronical is a word. His electronic devices. He was then arrested for having indecent material involving children, but was given bail, so Ron, in all his ninja wisdom, thought it would be a great idea to post the address of the lead officer in the case and threaten his wife. Not the sharpest ninja star on the belt is our mate Ron. The West Virginia ninja had this to say about the incident. Of course I publicly stated the possibility of a threat in such a way to be unthreatening. That's how you do it. Any threat is a perception of the target's mind and neither obvious nor immediate. Thus not illegal, hence legal, but a little bit immoral. Quite ninja, don't you think? Don Rowley is someone that we'll look at later, but just keep his name in your mind. So Don Rowley saw this post on Facebook and got in touch with the police who arrested Ron and charged him for making terrorist threats. Ron was judged incompetent to stand trial due to bipolar and malignant narcissism, but Ron wanted to continue with the court proceedings. In this hearing, it was revealed that Ron's cellmate had been given a recording device which recorded Ron making threats towards the judge, police officers and attorneys in the case. Ron was sent to a mental hospital for about a year and a half. After he was released, Ron posted a video claiming that he needed a gun as he was worried that the police are corrupt and were out to get him as he was exposing them.
You know, my life is in danger. I'm more scared of being shot by the police than I am of being shot by a fucking mugger. I'm more worried about the cops trying to kill me to cover up all their little dirty laundry than I am about anything else. And I put a bunch of stuff out when I was talking to people with Pervert Protect. But I just signed my death warrant.
So Ron has a blog which is a whole nother rabbit hole that we'll explore later. But on the 21st of February 2018 he posted claiming that he had just served the Riley County prosecutor Christine Keller, who has until the 5th of March to reply or Ron will receive $25 million. He then goes on to confirm that he does not advocate for violence but does own a gun, that he will use for self-defense, and that he did indeed use this against a police informant recently in self-defense, and didn't go to jail or even surrender his weapon to the police. He then goes on to clarify that he just showed the gun to the informant and he backed off. Ron then goes on to post links of him buying a gun.
What I went was something relatively inexpensive, a hell of a lot better than a high point, like my old one. And here's what we have. Walter... That's right. Ta-da! A Walter Creed. I do have a gun. I did pass a background check. Well, why is that important? Well, because, I put up the little meme talking about the people saying that I can't legally own a gun when I can. It's raining. And more importantly, I wanted to show that I do, in fact, can. I'll put a copy of the receipt up on Facebook at some other point. But yeah, just for all my haters who are stalking me, that's right. I bought a gun. I passed a background check. So, yay.
And a video of him taking it to a river and testing that it works. Ron even posted a copy of the receipt. This was all done to rub salt in the wounded pride of the troll's armed haters. As he puts it, he did this as people online had been telling him that he couldn't legally own a firearm due to his criminal record. Ron's logic for him being able to own a firearm was that the case against him had been fraudulent and that he was bringing a lawsuit against the prosecutor. And in fairness to Ron, he had passed a background check, so you would assume that if they've checked your background and still give it to you that you're allowed it. Well, the answer was no, he was not allowed it. And posting to your blog the fact that you've just committed a crime to mock a bunch of people that hate you was never going to end well for Ron. His online detractors, including Don Rowley, called the police and Ron was arrested, which would mean that he could no longer make the court date for him suing the prosecutor, so in his mind this also cost him $25 million. Sad times. Ron was in fact prohibited from possessing a firearm by virtue of him having previously been committed to a mental institution, and him lying on the form to claim that he had not been. Apparently the judge in his original case decided not to put him on a no-buy list for guns, which meant that he could still buy it, but he wasn't allowed it. If he would have been put on the no-buy list, then they wouldn't have allowed him to buy the gun. I'm very confused by this, but moving on. The fact that Ron had been on the internet with people telling him that he wasn't allowed to buy the firearm made the jury's decision easy. Ron was convicted and given 5 years in prison. When he was released, he was ordered to live in a halfway house, but broke the terms of stay by having a mobile phone, so was sent back to prison for 5 months and given a 31-month supervised release. Ron is now back on the streets of West Virginia and claims to have beaten up all sorts of cops and criminals while in prison. I'm not sure that I've found all of Ron's crimes, as I seem to have found many more mugshots of Ron than I have crimes, so I'd guess that it's a safe bet to say that there's much more that I haven't covered here.
So, who is Ron Collins? Ron Collins is pretty much a petty criminal, a fraud, and a mental midget. And a midget. And he's mental.
Ron Collins has a nemesis, the push to his pull, the yin to his yang. This man's name is Don Rowley. Don is also a ninja, or at least he practices and instructs ninjutsu. Does that make someone a ninja, or is a ninja more of a job than a skill? Anyway, these two seem to really hate each other and have been at each other's throats for many years now. As one of the ninjas is called Ron and the other one is called Don, it may get confusing. So in this section I'm going to refer to Ron as Ronald and Don Rowley as Don. The problems between the pairs seem to have started many years ago on a forum called Budoseek, when Don started to question Ronald's military record and claimed that Ronald was a fraud. Over the years, Ronald has claimed that Don is scared to face him. Ronald has claimed that Don chickened out of a Kumite deathmatch with him. Ronald has also driven to Colorado and invited Don to meet him.
New update video, still in Colorado. I know you guys hate these parking lot shots, but check it out. 38th and Chambers. Can you see that? All right, 38th and Chambers. Yep, that's me. I want to go to Burger King because I want a fat boy to fuck up. So yeah, it's right off 70. So now you guys know where I'm at. And I'm gonna be here for a couple hours, and if anybody wants to stop by and pay me a visit, hi. I'll either be here at Burger King or over here at the corner shop gas station. So there we go.
Don never showed up, and after this, Ronald would post a quote that probably I can't repeat on YouTube, but it involved Don's wife and kids and roasting marshmallows. Don reported this to the police, but they did nothing. It was actually after Ronald travelled to Colorado and posted to the forums about this that the match with Icy Mike was arranged. Ronald has also travelled to Denver to face Don, but again nothing came of this. So one day in 2016, Don was holding a seminar in Kentucky and invited Ronald to come and visit him, claiming that he would not call the police if Ronald showed up. Well, it just so happened that Ronald was attending a Black Dragon event in Kentucky at the same time, so Ronald turned up with 4 of his Black Dragon friends and they confronted Don. Don then calls them all frauds and calls Ronald a pedo, to which Ronald gets mad and one of the other Black Dragons has to gently hold him back, or I'm sure something crazy would have happened. Maybe. One of the Black Dragons offers to fight Don a few times, but Don claims that he is only interested in facing Ronald. And after much back and forth, Don and Ronald face each other on the mat, ready for action.
Congratulations! You won one fight, there's another one coming.
If there's another one coming, then why are you leaving? Why not just settle it now? Why drag this out?
He's gonna bring more people in. Going to be with our hands.
We're not here to fight.
I'm going to go out here with these alliances.
We're not here to fight. I mean, everything I say.
I'm going to sue you and make you print a retraction and actually say that you lied on your precious little blog, like all the other little lies you tell.
Ronald changed his mind at the last minute and decided to sue Ron instead. This whole video is a little bit odd, to be honest. A group of middle-aged ninjas enter a dojo in Kentucky to challenge the master. Sounds like the start of a bad joke, but the anticlimactic punchline is that they all walk out again and nothing happens. In fairness to the Black Dragons, they showed up for their friend, which made me respect them more than I originally did. After this face-off, Ronald would claim that Don would have him arrested if they fought, which is why he backed down. The pair then arranged a match in Denver, but Ronald backed out of this as he had to look after his mum. Don Rowley made a video about Ronald where he has an Oriental fan and talked about how Don is like the complex game of Go and Ronald is more like chess, which I thought I'd bring up and just let you make of that what you will. Don thinks that Ronald is obsessed with him as Don is the ninja that Ronald wishes that he was and he has the life that Ronald wishes that he had. These two seem to have an ongoing dislike for each other to this day, and I wouldn't be surprised if one day Ronald ends up back in prison for doing something to Don. But let's hope that's not the case. Don is not the only enemy that Ronald has on the internet. To be honest, he has loads. But now let's look at Baron Shepherd, or Baron Shepherd. These two don't seem to get along very well, but sadly there is no video of this event, so I'm just basing this off of witness accounts. So after the incident in Kentucky, Ronald would start to claim that Baron was afraid to face him in a cage match. Baron would try to set up this match, but due to his age, he found it very hard to find a venue that would host it. He did finally find a place and a date was set, but Ronald didn't show up. So another date was set, then another, with Ronald never showing up. Then out of the blue, Ronald showed up in Florida claiming that he was ready for the match to people on the internet, but sadly he had blocked Byron, so the message didn't get out to him. That was until the fight promoter informed Byron, who was more than happy with this and even put up $1,000 cash prize for Ron if he won. Mr. Shepherd then got another call from the promoter to say that Ron was at the venue with Ashida Kim, so Mr. Shepherd rushed down there, to which Kim made his excuses and left, leaving Ron to face the music alone. When Mr. Shepherd arrived, he is quoted to say, "I'm going to do to you what the 13-year-old's father should have done to you." Then for some reason Ron said that he wasn't there to fight and it was arranged for a few months' time, which never happened. Ron paints a very different picture of these events, claiming that he just went down to Florida to hang out with his friends, one of which was Ashida Kim. On a side note, it seems like Baron Shepherd and Ashida Kim have some kind of relationship, as they were involved in a lawsuit together and attended events with each other. I think the Baron was a Black Dragon maybe? The lawsuit was for copyright infringement involving one of the Black Dragon's ninja moves, with Ashida and Byron both being accused of plagiarism. Whatever their relationship was, it would seem that the pair have now had a falling out, with Byron accusing Kim of plagiarism for one of his books. Ron's blog is a pretty interesting thing to read through, so I thought we'd take a look at this in a little more detail. He has two blogs, one of which is called Black Dragon Ninjutsu and the other one is called Grunt's Guide to FHTF Survival. The second blog only has 3 posts which are about things like defending your home and urban survival thinking. On a side note, Ron also has a YouTube channel in which he has many videos about survivalism and foraging, so this seems like a topic of interest for him. We are going to focus on the Black Dragon blog though, as there are many posts on here, and if you enjoy human psychology, it's a pretty deep rabbit hole to fall down. This blog is one long list of all of the people that he has had a problem with, or people that have mistreated him in some way, including ninjas, the police, trolls on the internet, the state, the courts, martial artists, and the well-known Black Dragon Frank Dukes. It would seem that the pair had a falling out, with Ron posting their emails to his blog. Frank seems to have wanted to distance himself from Ron in case he did something crazy to Don Rowley's family. In one of these emails, Frank is quoted to say, "Little fool." He opens up all of his messages to Ron in this way. "Little fool. I did not encourage you at all to go to Don Rowley's house. I did state that you were too much of a coward to ever do so, and I was right. You played around in Denver and never went near him, but considering your history of attacking those that are weaker than you, I did not want to be involved if you did snap like the mental patient that you are and did something to them. Anything I said to warn you away would probably be an encouragement to you to harm them, so I kept silent. Because we know you are scared of Don Rowley, you would never face him and never will go to that seminar of his to fight him, but no one who knows you in the BDFS puts it past you to burn down his house with his kids in it. The story that you told everyone in the car on the way back really turned all of them against you. Trying to proposition an 11-year-old girl and stalking her when she refused is a very disgusting thing to do. It did not matter that you tried to portray it as a setup by a superior officer to keep you confined to base for the rest of your stay in Korea and ease you out through a discharge. Everyone could see right through that. Oh, the plot thickens. So it would seem that maybe Ron was discharged from the army for stalking an 11-year-old girl in Korea, maybe. Who knows, Frank isn't the most reliable source of information, to be honest. Ron then emails him back to claim that he never intended to attack Don's home and was just going to knock on his door to talk to him. This goes back and forth for a lot of messages, with Frank calling Ron a little fool a lot and claiming that he's not scared of Ron as he faced the best warriors the Soviet Union had to offer in the Cold War. Ron's comebacks are to call Frank a liar and try to make out that Frank is guilty of some kind of crime because Ron could have burnt down Don's house. It's a very weird email thread, and please remember that these are middle-aged men who think they're ninjas. Right, moving on. On his blog, Ron has also written an open letter to the one and only Mr. Trump. I'll read a few quotes from this. So, here is my address to Mr. Trump. I'm pretty sure I'm the first ninja to try and contact you. However, here in West Virginia, things are so bad. We, the people of the state, and not just myself, are begging for your help. All the information has been sprinkled across my Black Dragon Ninjutsu blog. Now, I don't care about anyone's opinion of me. Here is the deal. Call me the boogeyman because I am a ninja and ninjas don't fight. Most can't fight. In this open letter, he asks for a federal investigation to be launched as Ron has tricked the police into making mistakes just like he tricks the trolls on the internet, so the police are open to be exposed. On another post, Ron made this quote: I am a bit of a joker, and among my many nicknames, I've been called an adventurer and a cowboy. I love to push the envelope and test my limits. I even get a good laugh about the online martial arts community. See, I'm not the villain that people claim I am, nor am I an angel either. I have lied and I do lie still, but not in the way that people expect. I do things for one of three reasons: because I have to, because I think it's right, or because I get some enjoyment out of it. You see, one of the most interesting observations I have ever made has come from how people project their negative traits onto others. Have you ever seen a sex offender beat up another sex offender trying to convince other sex offenders that they aren't a sex offender? I have. It's pretty funny, actually. The end part of that quote is pretty strange, I guess. I'm not sure how things work in the good old US of A, but in England, sex offenders are not viewed kindly in prison, so they can ask to put themselves onto special wings or even special prisons. If Ron is surrounded by sex offenders, my guess would be that he was put onto the Fraggle wing of whatever prison he was sent to, which in England at least is a pretty shameful thing. I guess in the quote he didn't say he was in prison, but then that would mean he was surrounded by sex offenders in the real world, which is also very strange. Or maybe he's just lying about the story. Hard to know for sure. In this section, I thought it'd be interesting to try and see things from Ron's perspective, as he has many videos and blogs trying to tell the world about how the system is out to get him. Now, some of what Ron writes in his blogs and says in his videos is pretty hard to follow.
So, yeah. Here's the thing. I went to the federal courthouse. As soon as I walked in, I was told by federal marshal I was not allowed to be on federal property for any reason except to do my court case. Well, it's great, except the fact that I filed another court case and they're denying me my right to, have access to the courts. That's actually, a problem with due process of law. I don't even know if he realizes I could fucking pull his ass up on a 1983 claim and just shit up all to hell.
I'll try my best to piece it all together though. Ron mostly thinks that every time that he has been arrested is some kind of plot against him, mostly by the West Virginia State and Police Force. Probably the best example to look at for this is when he got arrested for the kid stuff on his computer. Ron's side of this story is that his uncle tried to steal Ron's car to kidnap his own son, who the uncle had abused and lost custody of. Unfortunately for Ron, the policeman who investigated this crime was a friend of his uncle. Ron also claims that he was going to testify against his uncle for abusing his son, so his uncle told Ron that he was going to make up a crime and get Ron arrested. So Ron said that if his uncle did this, he would tell the police that his uncle tried to use Ron's computer to download naughty kid stuff, as this is what Ron's uncle tried to do on his computer. Now, even if we take Ron's story as 100% true, if my uncle tried to download this stuff onto my computer, I don't think I'd be having a nice civil chat about it with him. Anyway, Ron's uncle left the home, and a short time later the police raided Ron and found all of the stuff on his computer. Ron then claims that the policeman who is friends with his uncle removed his devices from the lab and tampered with them. He also claims that the police/prosecutors lied, claiming that they had a second search warrant, but they didn't. I'm not too sure why this is important, but he goes on about it a lot. He has posted a video from his court case that he secretly took on his phone in his pocket, which confirms this. Taking secret recordings of court proceedings seems like something that will be illegal, but moving on. Ron actually seems to know quite a lot about the law, which makes it hard to follow what he's saying. A lot of his defence and proof that he is innocent relies on technicalities, and honestly I can't be bothered to research West Virginia Code 276A2 subsection B to figure out if Ron knows what he's talking about or if he's just talking a load of gibberish. He uses these kind of law codes a lot though. Ron also claims that his arrest was all part of his ninja plan to expose the police as corrupt and bring down the system. He also claims that organised crime are involved in this case somehow, but I can't quite figure out where. He claims that the government are in on the plot against him and are ignoring the corruption, as if they fix it, most of the criminal cases in the county would need to be dismissed. And he also claims to have been assaulted many times by the people involved in the case, with him posting videos of him with a black eye. Ron claims that he allowed these people to win the fights. He also claims that police falsified evidence and coerced witnesses in the case, and that a whistleblower state trooper who backs up his story made allegations against the top leadership of the police that kicked off a civil war inside West Virginia police. Sadly, this state trooper was arrested, so we never got to hear what he had to say. Ron has posted court transcripts that confirm that the kiddie computer stuff charges were dismissed. If this was because he was innocent or went to the nut house, I'm not too sure. On the 2nd of November 2022, Ron would appeal his conviction for the firearm on the basis that him being sent to the mental hospital was done via an unfair trial due to mistakes made in the court case, and that his commitment had been overturned in state court. I think that Ron was representing himself in the court case, as the transcript states that he accused the judge of making vague assertions that violate constitutional intent, and accused the attorney, judge, court, magistrate and public defender of various violations of due process, crimes and other misconduct. The judge dismissed the case as Ron brought no new facts to the appeal and filed after the deadline to appeal. The Ron Collins story was a much deeper rabbit hole than I was expecting. Someone posted ages ago in the comments that I should look into him, and I'm only just getting around to it now. But thanks if you're watching, it was more interesting to investigate than I was expecting. Also thanks to websites called The Martialist and Martial Arts Frauds and Fakes. They have lots of information on Ron. Some of the things that Ron has been up to in more recent times are that he posted a video of him punching with weights in his hand, asking for a rematch with Icy Mike.
Alright, let's check this out. 25-pound weights. This is what I do to practice. Get my speed and my hands up, right? It's all about control. Controlling those muscles. Works even better for uppercuts. Because we have resistance. Now, Mike,
taking it serious. Trying to get myself back in fighting shape. Real fighting shape. The guys on the OG want to see a rematch. I'm asking for a rematch. This time a serious one. What do you say?
As far as I know, Mike hasn't accepted this offer, but I'd be pretty interested to watch the rematch. In 2023, Ron threatened to sue Don Rowley again for Don dressing up like a Sheeda Kim and advocating Satanism. I have no idea what this is referring to, but it sounds pretty funny. Ron also posted a video about guerrilla warfare and how you need popular support to wage a successful campaign. In this video, he claimed to be related to Michael Collins, who was a leading figure in the IRA and a well-known guerrilla warfare strategist planning many attacks on the British in the 1900s. So that's what Ron is up to these days. Sensei Collins seems obsessed with proving to people on the internet that he is a tough guy for some reason. He seems more concerned with showing people that hate him that he is always one step ahead of them than he is about going to prison. And honestly, I don't think this story is going to have a happy ending. Ron is extremely paranoid about the police, and I wouldn't be surprised if one day his name pops up on the news alongside many lives lost. Let's hope that I'm wrong about this. I actually think that Ron believes that he is innocent of many of the crimes that he has been accused of, and that he thinks that he is a great ninja. I also think that Ron is probably one of the most troubled people that I've ever made a video about, and I find it all pretty sad. But also it's hard to find too much sympathy for him given some of the things that I've covered in this video. There are many extreme quotes from Ron that I can't say due to us being on YouTube, but here is one that I can say, hopefully. I cannot find help from those in power. Thus I am returning to my place in this world. I am a warrior, and soon we will see that war come to fruit. My country has betrayed me. My loved ones are threatened. I have no one to rely on. To those who may be reading this who know the situation, sending me to hell only means I will return with an army of demons led by an angel of death. Let's all hope that we never hear anything about Ron Collins again. Unless it's a rematch with Icy Mike. Thanks for watching. Do the like and comment stuff. Watch this video about Sheeda Kim, or this one about Steven Seagal. A big thanks to the channel members and Patreons. You guys are the real ninjas in this story. And bye-bye.
You're going to get to see something that's going to shock you.